That's a nice segue to the final question. I know you got to get going, but I saw your tweet storm about Portland and the Trump administration's decision to send some mysterious federal agent force in there, and I don't know about you, but I've been watching Portland devolve into chaos for years now. It seems like the last 3 to 5 years, there's been violence in the streets every day, and what's your take on what we should and shouldn't do in Portland?
I have a great deal of sympathy for those who are upset about rioting, destruction, and chaos and anarchy in Portland and in other cities, frankly. I think if you want it to be different, it's important to know how we got here and whose fault it is. Portland's been run by Democrats for 50 years. Minneapolis, run by Democrats for 50 years. Louisville, we have problems in our city in Louisville and Kentucky. Last Republican mayor in 1972. I think when you send the federal government in and Trump gets in the middle of that, Trump becomes the target. So just for purely political reasons, I think it's a bad idea because you're taking blame away from the people who deserve to have the blame, the Democrats who have been running our cities. On another note, though, whether or not we should have a federal police force, the Constitution doesn't provide for a federal police force. Our founding fathers didn't even like a standing army, much less sending police into communities. Our founding fathers would not even be able to fathom having a federal police official from Washington, D.C. go to Portland. Law enforcement was always local, always has been, always should be. Policing needs to be local, too, and the reason policing ought to be local and not federal, even when you're upset. And look, I'm as upset as anybody else about Portland. I think it's terrible, and I would want to do everything we can do to try to prevent it if I lived in Portland. And yet, the job of a policeman is very difficult. A policeman has to keep the peace, keep people from killing each other, arrest people who are trying to invade the rights or space of other individuals, but they also have to protect the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. And so in our country, you are allowed to stand up and hold your sign up. You know, you're allowed to stand up and say, Big Brother sucks. You're allowed to do that. And there's a terrible picture, and I'm going to ask the head of Department of Homeland Security this week about it. There's a video going around of a guy, and I'm not sure if he's holding up a music speaker or if he's holding up a sign, and you see him, and they shoot like a canister towards him, and I think he throws it back, but he's in no way aggressive. He's not armed, doesn't look like he's committed any violence, and he's shot in the head with one of these rubber bullets, which are pretty potent rubber bullets. They don't kill you, but it opened the skin and fractured his skull, and I think he's had to have reconstructive surgery, and it's like, you know, nobody deserves that, and I think a local policeman is a little bit more aware of what they're supposed to do and not do. And I always kind of say this when I go around Kentucky. I appreciate that local police come to my rallies to help me, to protect me from crazy people. They usually just kind of are standing there, but they're a deterrent force. And I usually say, you know what, the local police do understand the Fourth Amendment because they know they always have to, they're pretty comfortable with it. They have to ask a judge before they go to someone's house. They have to have a warrant. So I think local police are more able to understand the rules of the Fourth Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and so I worry about having a lot of federal police